Mr. Chairman and Director Lew, I have to join in what a number have said. As I reviewed the President's budget when it came out, I was discouraged. I felt the President took a pass. And frankly, as one of those who served on the Fiscal Commission and voted for the recommendations that the President's Fiscal Commission made, I saw very little of the recommendations in the budget. And frankly, when comparing the numbers that we see in the budget to what I think are going to be the reality, it appears to me that the budget that is proposed does not even go as far as it is claimed to. And I want to get into a couple of aspects of that with you. First, you use the term primary balance, and I think we all understand that here in Washington in the budget committees and so forth. But when the American people hear that, I'm not sure they quite understand what it is we're saying. Is it not accurate to say that when you use the word the budget comes into primary balance, it means that if you don't pay any interest on the national debt, you can say that you're covering the ongoing expenditures?
Yes, it means that the only deficit is coming from paying the debt.
And is that with the entire budget, including mandatory spending?
That is the entire budget.
And can you tell us what the amount of interest adding to the debt is throughout the totality of the 10 years?
I would have to look up the number. I can get back to you with the number.
Well, I have what I think are some of your charts here. Would it be fair to say that the gross debt of the United States over the 10 years of this budget will grow from about $13.5 trillion to $26.3 trillion?
That would be the total debt, not the debt held by the public.
Understood.
The debt held by the public is a lower number.
That's the gross debt. And the debt held by the public would grow from about $9 trillion to about $19 trillion. Is that not correct? So I think it's just important that as we talk about this, that you understand the reason for the frustration that many of us have is that this doesn't change the course that we've been on. It will, our debt, whether you count the public debt or the gross debt, is going to double in the next 10 years under this budget. And that is not sufficient. As I think the chairman said, this may be a good opening bid, but we shouldn't be in a bidding process here. We should be engaged with solid leadership from the White House, and we should, as Congress, be engaged heavily in that process as well. A couple of other aspects of the report that I'd like to highlight if I can. As I look at the budget report, as we've analyzed it so far, you're projecting about a $1.7 trillion increase in revenue relative to the same baseline that the Congressional Budget Office projected in January. As I analyzed the two differences there, can you tell me why the difference?
Over what period are you
I understand that to be over the period of the budget.
You know, there are differences in our budget because, first of all, we have policy proposals, but there are also some differences because of economic assumptions. And I can tell you what the impact of the policy proposals are in our budget, and I can also tell you what the impact of the economic is. But
would it be fair to say the policy proposals you're talking about assume over $1 trillion in new taxes? Is that correct?
Well, I apologize for it being a little bit complicated, but we consider the baseline to leave the tax rates from the top bracket, you know, where they will be when the 2-year extension expires. So we are not counting the savings that come from leaving that provision in place as savings. That would be, you know, roughly speaking, $700 billion of savings. We're not counting it as savings because it's in the baseline. So
understood.
We have $360 billion of net additional revenues in our budget.
But aren't you signaling that you want to see those taxes,
Oh, yeah. No, our policy position is they should be allowed to expire.
All right.
But we don't count them in our $1.1 trillion of deficit reduction because they're in the baseline.
All right, and because of time, I want to go on here. I know there are other policy matters we could, in fact, I would like to get into.
I would love to.
But also, with regard to your economic projections, it appears to me that you are projecting a significantly increased economic performance over what either the private sector in say, the blue chip reviews show or CBO's projections that came out in January. Is that not also
I'm not sure I'd agree that they're substantially, but they are somewhat more optimistic. And the assumptions that we have are in the middle range of what the Federal Reserve looks at when it looks at economics, and it is consistent with the recovery from past financially led recessions. In fact, it's a little bit slower in getting to recovery. And the basic difference between the two is that we assume that over a longer period of time, we'll get back to the economic growth we had before the recession. The other assumptions assume that we are permanently going to be lower. We think that our assumption there is right. The trajectory may or may not be right. We may be year to year, it's hard to hit these things on a bullseye, but conceptually, I think we have the right assumption.
Thank you. Again, I'd love to go deeper, but I'm out of time. Thank you.
I thank the senator for respecting the time. Senator Coons.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Director Lew, thank you for your